Hi, this is Isabella Breda, the editor-in-chief of The Echo, Cal Lutheran's student newspaper. Throughout the first month of President Lori Varlotta's tenure, she evaluated the current organizational structure and proposed changes that would allow her more time to tackle what she refers to as strategic issues. Our reporter, Schmidt, got time to catch up with President Varlotta and some other cabinet members to learn more about what these organizational changes mean. Welcome, Krister.
I'm Krister Schmidt. I'm a senior at the university. I'm currently working towards a bachelor's in communications with an emphasis in journalism, and I report for The Echo.
Awesome. And so last week you got the chance to speak with the president. And so what were some of the main reasons behind shifting around the roles of the vice presidents?
Honestly, from what I could gather, it seemed like a ton of roles at the university reported initially to the president, as opposed to being kind of given out to other positions, like being under the watch of other vice presidents. So it seemed like President Varlotta, when she basically figured out how many different positions reported to her, she thought that she could probably run it more efficiently by having it overseen by vice presidents.
Okay. And so, how many different departments reported to her, or what was she saying would be the benefit of dividing those up?
I don't remember the exact number of the departments that's reported to her, but I can tell you the ones that did change. Look again and see what they were. So I believe under Matthew Ward, several of them got moved over to him, and that seemed to be the bulk of the changes were moved over to there. I can't remember exactly which ones are new and which ones he already was watching, but who's already watching over. But athletics, registrar, admissions, disability support, student success, STEM, trio, and financial aid are all currently under Matthew after the restructuring. I believe the changes were primarily with athletics. I want to say registrar and admissions all got. I think admissions was already under this. It's athletics and registrar. But basically, the idea with them moving all the stuff under Matthew's watch is that Matthew was initially responsible specifically for recruiting people to the university. And she wanted to change it so that not only was he responsible for recruiting, but he was responsible for retaining them there.
Right.
So it seemed to be a big piece of why a lot of these areas moved to him.
Right. And so he started with enrollment management, and now he oversees sort of a plethora of things on campus that are aimed at retaining students. So looking at athletics, obviously there's recruitment on that side in a different field through the coaches. And then connecting students with things like disability support services and trio and those things on campus. So that one makes a little bit more sense from the surface level. And then we saw that Leanne Nielsen is now overseeing ITS. Can you briefly describe that transition?
Yeah, the reason I was given for ITS becoming under the watch of Leanne Nielsen was that basically, as you've seen during the pandemic, everything's been done online through Zoom and Blackboard. So I think the fact that she's the person that does academic affairs, I think they're trying to move ITS over there because she was also trying to figure out how to not have everything go straight to the president. But on top of that, I'd say that the primary reason they really moved it under her is because of the fact that a lot of student learning is pretty much tech-based at this point, considering you have so many online courses, even when there wasn't a pandemic. And I mean, all the grades and stuff are already in there, so it's already stuff that was kind of under the watch of her. In fact, they already had a digital technology component that she was responsible for. So moving ITS over to her, I guess for them, seemed like a good fit because she was already working with a lot of the digital learning.
Right, and so she's in academic affairs, and there's a little bit of overlap there now just because of the pandemic. Did she have any experience coordinating with ITS or working with them previously?
Yeah, it seemed like she did have some amount of it, mostly because she did oversee digital learning.
Right.
So I think a lot of those topics came up in there, which is why they figured that the transition over to also overseeing ITS wouldn't be too far of a stretch.
Okay. And so all these direct reports that were shifted from the president to members of the cabinet, what is this opening up time for the president to be able to do?
I did not get an answer for that, honestly. It sounded like it was mostly just an overwhelming amount of work that was given directly to the president.
Right.
And she thought that there would be better if things got delegated around. But I didn't really get a specific response as to what the specific reason that she needed more time was. I guess just because there are other departments she's oversees, and I think she felt like they didn't give the proper time they deserved, I guess.
Right. So I guess, is there anything else that you think is important for students to know about this restructuring?
Those seemed like the primary things was those two things, really. It didn't seem like they were shifting around a whole lot of other departments. I know a big piece of why they did this is because of the fact that, let me look at the stats. It was 17 staff members who were laid off and then 52 who were furloughed. So I think a big part of the restructuring was that a lot of people that were able to help overlook things or oversee things basically aren't there anymore. So it seems like things need to be shifted around just to account for that loss of staff.
Right. And when I talked to the president regarding the furloughs and layoffs, she did say that there were a few oversight positions, so directors of different departments that were furloughed for some of their time. So whereas, they'd have more of the direct oversight over that entire department, she was having to absorb that responsibility. So it would sort of make sense that she's trying to shift it around within the cabinet, but it's certainly an interesting move early on in her presidency.
Yeah, she's honestly, from the couple of times I've talked to her, she's made a lot of really fast changes to the university.
Right.
Very quickly in a couple different areas. This being one of the first major ones I think she's done. But it seems like she's trying to shift around a lot of stuff to do very quickly.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Krister.
No problem.
Here's what else you need to know this week. Cal Lutheran now has a campus advocate for survivors of sexual assault and sexual harassment, Dakota Beckham. Previously, students had to go to the Title IX office if they experienced sexual assault or harassment on campus. The campus advocate will be a supplementary, confidential resource to connect survivors with the resources they need, regardless of if they choose to report a Title IX case. Our editorial team has a story. Next thing you need to know. Last week, our reporter Sam Hostetter provided an update on the university's financial health. Sam found that the likelihood of future cuts, including layoffs and furloughs, is wholly dependent on spring's enrollment numbers. All of the news discussed in this podcast can be found at cluecho.com. Thanks for listening.